Back to Natalie Harp, who's also pretty hot.
Yeah, no, I mean, Natalie, who is a key function in this White House. She is one of, in matter of fact, she may be the most direct conduit to Donald Trump. If you have Natalie Harp's number, you can speak to the president virtually at any time.
We should find Natalie Harp's number. I'm sure it's in your phone, and we should blast it out so everybody can call Natalie Harp.
Absolutely.
Michael, where did she come from?
She had a minor on-air role at the fourth level conservative network, One
Media.
Yeah, and she was ill and with a disease. The story seems to change from who you hear it from. There are many versions of what she was ill with, but during the first administration, there was an initiative, a presidential order, I don't remember, but anyway, clearing the way for the use in some instances of experimental drugs, enabling her to get some particular drug that cured her. And then so she wrote to Donald Trump saying he had saved her life.
Which would be very appealing to anybody, but particularly Donald Trump.
Yes. And then she got a speaking berth at the 2020 Republican convention. That was a virtual convention, as you might remember, during COVID.
I blanked it out, actually. I'd totally forgotten that, but of course.
And then in 2022, early 2022, she came on to the campaign as the step and fetch it girl, the sort of
intern,
the body
or the
person.
body girl.
Yeah, get me a cup of coffee.
Right.
The get me a cup of coffee girl. But one of her jobs then was also to run the printer. So Trump does not use email, which has protected him from numerous legal situations. And he doesn't really use a computer, and even his use of the phone is pretty limited. So he likes things printed out. Now that's also ironic because he doesn't read anything, but he gets things printed out and he
holds.
Yes. And so she had the portable printer, and she would follow him on the golf course. She would have her own golf cart running the printer, and from hole to hole, she would then be printing out emails, and then increasingly stories that she thought he should see. And these were usually feel-good stories. Oh, this weirdo website. There's some, there was a lot of fan stuff. People would draw pictures of Trump, which he liked to see those. She became the keeper of that, and from that point, she became the keeper of almost everything. Everything he saw. You didn't get information to Donald Trump unless it was funneled through Natalie Harp's printer.
And where does she sit? Does she have an office in the White House?
She sits right outside of his office, so right outside the Oval Office.
So she's the literal and figurative gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And she earned the role herself by being the coffee girl.
By being the coffee girl and by being able to make a comfort blanket, make him feel good. And then within the campaign, and she was there was enormous animosity with the other campaign staffers because she had such control of him. And then they would say she feeds him his uppers and downers. So really controlling the mood, and the mood was controlled through media. I'm giving you,
I'm giving you good media, good feedback.
This thing. Now I'm giving you this thing that has been horrible thing that has been said about you. Michael Wolff said about you.
Or the Daily Beast said about you.
Yes.
And so traditionally a role that might have been played by a wife. I mean, not necessarily filtering all the information, but the idea of soothing him.
Yeah, no. I think this is, remember, and as we've discussed before, Melania is absent. The time she spends with the president, I think it's, reduced to the absolute minimum necessary to sustain the illusion of a marriage.
And does Melania appreciate the work of someone like Natalie Harp? Is she just grateful that Natalie has taken on this, what I imagine, unfillable role?
I think it's probably both things. I think she probably sees a completely inhospitable environment for her at this time, because it's an environment filled by other surrogates of the wife role. There is no place for her. Now, I guess she could come in and sweep everyone aside. But I think that marriage is long past that. She probably then said, okay, there's no room for me here. And I'm grateful for there not to be any demand that I be there.
Okay, so that's Natalie Harp. What about Elina Harour, his lawyer, who was his lawyer during the Stormy Daniels trial and also looks like one of the Trump women?
Yeah, and she would be one of the people in the photograph he holds up. My lawyers are hot. And she is now she's the federal prosecutor in New Jersey. Now, I cannot tell you how among the many lawyers in the Trump circle who have assumed high position and enormous power, who are of questionable qualifications, she is the least qualified. And there was she met him at her husband owns parking garages in New Jersey.
Right.
Parking garages, New Jersey.
Okay. Right.
And they're members of the golf club, Bedminster Golf Club. And so the story went that she was by the pool in a bikini, and that's how she met Trump.
So like one of his beauty contestants from Miss Universe.
Yes. So I had this information. I called her up. And she said, that is absolutely untrue. I will sue you if you say that. But she said, I am a member of the Bedminster Club. I love the Bedminster Club. I do have a bikini. I love the pool. So I was like, okay.
Confusing. Very legalistic answer.
Yes. And then she took on a series of legal tasks, mostly that other lawyers did not want to take on, like, suing his niece. A whole lot of things that respectable lawyers would not do. Lawyers are all basically, they have their clients, but then they have their reputations. She was willing to do these things, a whole series of motions and cases that were then thrown out. But she became more and more central, and he would push her forward. He also liked her to be out front. So whenever there was a court thing, and remember, Trump used these court appearances to enormous public advantage.
And they became part of his campaign.
Absolutely. And she was out there. She looks the role.
Well, she looks like she's someone from Law and Order, which is what his base is probably watching.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing with Trump. A lawyer should be like a lawyer on television.
Right. I remember you saying that he sort of yelled at them, do you not know what Perry Mason would have done? Yeah, do you know who Perry Mason is?
Right. But she was a terrible lawyer. And then he would yell at her, in vicious, horrifying ways. You just cringe.
During the Carroll trial, he would.
E. Jean Carroll.
Right.
And obviously that was a catastrophe. And
for Trump, it was a catastrophe for Trump.
Yes. And there was a moment when they were going to they were trying to introduce certain evidence, and she failed at that. And then he, quite in public, reamed her out in front of the court, but then made her go out anyway and be the smiley face in front of the camera. So what she gets from that? Oh, and then she had actually wanted to be the press secretary, the spokesman, the Caroline Levitt job. She didn't get that. Trump, too old.
Right, too old, of course.
She's somewhat. She's not an old in any respect, but too old for that job. But then she got this job running the as the federal prosecutor in New Jersey. Extraordinary.
This podcast was produced by Devon Rogerino, Anna von Ursen, and it was edited by Jesse Millward.